Hey everyone, so it's 2016 and I wanted to commemorate the start of a new year by looking back on some of the films I watched in 2015. I'm very grateful for the fact that I was able to join filmwork.co.uk as a reviewer. That meant I was able to go to preview screenings and receive advanced copies of some new releases and also older films which had been reissued. 2015 was also important for me because I really indulged my curiosity and ran down some films that I'd either heard about or had just caught me by surprise. And a lot of them were really, really bad. I'm actually a believer in the idea that something can be so bad it's good, that something can transcend its incompetence or stupidity and achieve some kind of magnificence. But, that being said, some movies are just outright shit. And with that in mind, I present to you the 5 worst films I saw in 2015.
That's great, it starts with an earthquake.
I saw a lot of obscure British gangster films in 2015, and while none of them were the Long Good Friday, I have to admit that many of them weren't actually that bad. Shoreditch, however, made me want to stick a shooter between my teeth. The plot revolves around Shane Ritchie in his pre-EastEnders days, owning a sketchy jazz club in pre-war London. It's there that he meets a sultry nightclub singer called Butterfly, played by a really confused-looking Jolie Richardson. There's something involving drugs and the Home Office, and there's a lot of awkward banging over a desk, and it just never gels. There's never any sense of romance or eroticism to it. This all runs side by side with another plot involving Ritchie's grandson, who inherits the building that the club used to be in. Him and his airhead girlfriend begin renovating the place, and they're joined by one of the worst comic relief characters I've ever seen. This fucking guy makes Jar Jar Binks look like Chevy Chase. One of the most interesting facts about this film is that Shane Ritchie apparently believed in it so much that he remortgaged his house and poured a reported $500,000 into it. And honestly, I kind of wish he'd put even more in, because if you're going to set a film in an iconic part of London, you might want more locations that actually show you the fucking place. Build some sets, get some period vehicles in there. I mean, seriously, the Luftwaffe showed more regard for East London than this movie does.
Dummy, serve your own needs, beat it up an ox, speak, grunt, no strength, the ladder starts to clatter.
Robin Hardy's The Wicker Man and Michael Reeves' Witchfinder General are arguably two of the best films that the UK has ever produced. Both deal with witchcraft and pagan lore and religious repression. This fucking film, it's called The Scarecrow, this fucking thing takes that tradition, ties it to a stake, and sticks 2 fingers up your ass as you start to get crispy. I was astonished at how irritating and boring this film is. It's about 3 witches who rise from the dead to enact a murderous curse. That should be fucking amazing. That should be a fucking riot. But the main characters are such unsympathetic pricks that you can't wait for them to get killed off. And even more astonishing is that this thing fails on a purely juvenile level. There's plenty of sequences where beautiful women have their tits out, but it's also flaccid that you might as well be whacking off to a picture of Vincent Price. After he died.
For hire in a combat site, left to us and coming in a hurry with the fury.
Infinii, they've all got it Infinii. This film actually came in at number 2 on my Filmwork worst of 2015. I saw it at screening in Soho, and 2 other reviewers actually walked out halfway through. Now that's obviously unprofessional, and kind of an overreaction, because you can make it through this thing if you're a cinematic masochist like I am. The thing that's most aggravating about this film is the fact that it wastes a huge amount of potential. The core of it is based around a slipstream technology which teleports you around the galaxy rather than having to rely on spaceships. That's a really interesting idea, I thought. You know, you could explore the physiological and psychological implications of a technology which completely disassembles you and forces you through extreme time dilation. Instead, what you get is an incredibly derivative plot, which is hugely influenced by Aliens, and there's a huge debt owed to 28 Days Later. There's a lot of rage going on here. And there is some incredibly cheap references to Blade Runner. In fact, more than anything, the film that this film puts me in mind of is Event Horizon. There's that scene in Event Horizon. If you've seen it, you know which one I'm talking about. Well, this film makes me want to do to myself what the Event Horizon did to the crew. The thing I do genuinely love about Infinii is the fact that Luke Hemsworth is in it. He actually has third billing on the marquee, but he's barely in it at all. It's nothing like living in the shadows, is there, Luke? Last year I learned more than any sane person should about a genre called remake-exploitation. This is basically where one filmmaker will take a familiar film and then rehash it for their own markets. A classic entry in this genre is apparently one called Turkish Star Wars, which I'm looking forward to more than you can know. I didn't catch that, but I did catch Lady Terminator. Or, more accurately, I kind of caught it. The reason that this is higher on the list than Infinii is because, while Infinii is worse, this film defeated me. If you've seen James Cameron's classic, then you've seen Lady Terminator. You just need to swap Arnold out for a swimsuit model, swap Carl Reese out for a poor man's Soren Bowie, and then bookend it with references to Indonesian folklore. The shamelessness and inanity of this film had my mind squealing inside of my cranium within 20 minutes. I had to turn it off. I couldn't handle it. So, point to you, Lady Terminator. You win.
No fear, cavalier, renegade, steer clear, tournament of lies. Offer me solutions.
Fuck this movie. Fuck it in the eye socket. Infinii wasted one film, this wastes 5. And 3 of them are actually pretty decent. It's supposed to be a horror compilation, all themed around the season of goodwill. Season of fuck my balls. Seriously. You have a dysfunctional family being stalked by Krampus. You have 2 parents bringing home a changeling on Christmas Eve. You have Santa killing zombie elves. And you fucked it up. It's lashed to an incredibly thin slasher plot, and teenagers in a basement being stalked by a Sadako clone. It has CGI blood. There is no creativity behind this. There is minimal intelligence. And some reviewers really loved it. Some people are saying it's going to become a classic Christmas film. Why? I mean, this was depressing. It was depressing in its tone, and it was depressing to just watch how everything was being squandered. William Shatner's a drunken DJ in it who ties the whole thing together like he's a piece of threadbare fucking tinsel. And it just doesn't work as a compilation. It doesn't work at all. When it's trying to be a horror, it's not scary. When it's trying to be comedic, it isn't funny. I saw far more worse films in terms of production value in 2015. There was usually something entertaining in there. There was usually something which piqued my interest. This film was just crushing. And I'm glad that I'll never have to see it again. I'm glad I'll never have to dirty the inside of my DVD player by putting the fucking thing in. I didn't pay to see this rectal discharge, and I still feel like I got fucked. So, on that happy note, thank you so much for watching my top 5 worst films I saw in 2015. And here's to 2016. All the adventures, the opportunities, the new horizons, and hopefully no films as bad as Christmas. No positivity, new horizons, new adventures, new adventures. Happy New Year, everyone!